welcome back. Like a will-o'-the-wisp, we follow faint lights toward the paranormal, the spiritual, and the haunted. Today we've got some stories with people who have reoccurring hauntings, as well as things that have happened that have made them believe or become interested in the paranormal. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it.
I have filmed this video 3 times and it just will not let me post, but the craziest things have been happening and I'm going to tell you about it. So I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains, so far off the grid that sometimes I would be in areas where people did not even have running water or electricity, and because of that I would have to navigate to their homes with the use of like a map and like a compass in my car. Now, I usually say that my stories are changed for the sake of HIPAA and for the sake of storytelling, but this story takes place at my house, so that doesn't really apply here. Now, I'm going to try to explain this the best I can, and it's absolutely insane. But like a week ago, I'm getting ready to go out of town, okay? And in preparation for leaving, I need to get hay for the horses. So I take my horse trailer to my hay guy, I get a round bale, I come home. Now, when I'm trying to disconnect the trailer from my truck, I cannot get the jack of the trailer to pick the trailer up high enough so it's off like my ball, like the hitch, the trailer hitch, right? So because I'm lazy and I'm frustrated and I'm tired and I have so much else to do before I leave town, I pull the pin on my trailer ball, like my trailer hitch, and I drive the truck away. Now my thought is the hitch ball is just going to fall into the driveway, onto the gravel driveway, and I'll find it later, right? Like, makes sense. But I had left the property to go run errands, and I came back to find the trailer ball, or the trailer hitch, where I thought it would be, and it's not there. Now, for some reference, this is important. My driveway is huge. I have like a big horseshoe driveway in the front, which is great for turning around my horse trailer, and then the driveway basically connects to a gravel road that goes all the way to the back of our property, and then it enters the woods, becomes a smaller road, like a dirt road, and there's like an area like where you can drive like a car or like a go-kart, or like I'll drive my horses, and my chicken coop is back there. Amazing. My TV's just turning on by itself. Fantastic. So much going on right now. So I park my trailer right at the entrance of the woods, right next to the electric horse fence, okay? And so I am searching the gravel driveway. I'm even searching the entrance to the woods for my trailer ball hitch. Cannot find it. So I tell my husband, I can't find my trailer hitch. Like, have you seen it? And he's like, no, but why would you drive away without looking to see if it fell in the driveway? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think that. I just expected it to fall in the driveway. So he comes outside and he checks the yard. He checks the driveway. He checks the farm. He checks the dirt road. We can't find it. So he's like, you know what? You probably didn't have it come away from your truck all the way before you left the house, so it probably fell off somewhere like on the road. And he's like, that's very dangerous. You could hurt another driver. You could bust someone's windshield. He's like, and also that hitch ball was very expensive. So that was a very costly mistake and a very dangerous mistake. And now my husband's a very, very sweet, calm man towards me. And so I know this is bad, right? Like, I didn't think this through enough before I did it. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I really wish now that I could just find this trailer hitch ball so I know that I didn't hurt anybody, because now I am stressed. Now, in the meantime, I did have to borrow my friend's trailer hitch just to move a few more things before I had to leave for vacation. So I did have her trailer hitch ball, and she was feeding my horses when I was leaving, so I threw her trailer hitch ball into my barn with the pin in case she needed it while I was gone. So all this happens, can't find my trailer hitch ball, and I'm leaving for West Virginia. The plan is to meet my girlfriends in West Virginia. We're going to take my friend's car to the airport, okay? And my truck is going to stay on her farm. So I throw my duffel bag in the back of my truck, like 4 a.m. Thursday morning or whatever, and I leave. I leave the house. That road that I posted in my last video with like the trees and I said fun date idea, let's like stand in the road, whistle and run, that's the road leading up to her farm. So it's like an area, it's like a farm in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia. You drive up to the house, you're parking on the farm, and all around it is woods, and her farm is just connected to like another 2,000 acres, and there's nothing there. Like, it's nothing people horseback ride on the property, they hunt on the property, but nothing is there, okay? So I'm in the middle of nowhere. My truck sits there from the time I park it there Thursday until we get back on Sunday, okay? So we get back on Sunday, I get in my truck, and I drive back home to Ohio, all right? And when I get home, I'm pulling my duffel bag out of the back of the truck, and my husband comes to say hi to me because I'm just coming back from my little girls' weekend. And he goes, I'm closing my tailgate, and he goes, oh, you found your hitch ball. And I'm like, no, I didn't find my hitch ball. That's Erica's. And then I realized, no, it's not, because I left Erica's in the barn so she could grab it when she came over to feed the horses. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know, I didn't. And he looks and he goes, that's your hitch ball, you found it. And I'm like, no, I did not find it. And I said, did you put it on there? Did you put my hitch ball on there? And he goes, no, why would I put it on there? You've been gone. And I said, well, did you put it on before I left? And he goes, no, remember, I couldn't find it. Which is true. He tried to find it, I tried to find it, we couldn't find it. So I'm looking to make sure it's not my friend Erica's, and my friend Erica's is in my barn. Just the hitch. No pin, just her hitch. And I'm looking at the hitch that's on my truck, and it is my trailer ball hitch that I always use, that I lost, with the pin in it, which is just not possible because my truck has been parked on a farm in West Virginia for the past 4 days, and the pin has been in my barn in Ohio, and I lost the trailer hitch. So how did I show up back home in Ohio with the trailer ball hitch that I lost and the pin that was in my barn? I am like I cannot figure it out. And at first I was like, well, maybe I'm just so tired and so exhausted because I'm running around 24/7 with, my 2 jobs and my kids and my farm. Maybe I put it on there myself. No, I didn't. I left Ohio without it because I couldn't find it. And I was thinking of what a bummer it was that I lost it because it was expensive, and I was so worried that someone might have hit it on the road and it trashed their car. So I know I didn't find it. And I asked my friend Mindy, I'm like, hey, who was at the farm while we were gone? The only person at the farm while we were gone was the dude that feeds the animals. And I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. We have never met. And he went up like twice a day to feed the animals. Other than that, my truck was in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia. No one drove it. No one was there. And the pin was not there. I have no idea. What did Wendigo show up in my woods, steal my trailer hitch when it fell off my trailer, and then transport it to West Virginia and be like, let me put this bitch's ball back on? I don't understand. I don't know how it got there. Thoughts? Ideas? I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. But good news is I have my trailer hitch back. Bad news is it is haunting me, and I cannot figure out how the hell it ended up back in my truck or where it was. So that's that. Oh, and Anna, the house ghost, just turned on the news for you. So.
Do you guys want to hear a scary story? What better way to break in the new place than to tell you guys a scary story about what happened when I was moving out of my old place. This place has amazing energy, but let's get into it. Okay, so I definitely think whenever I was at my old place, didn't want me to move, obviously. Got cold. So, second to the last night I stayed at my old place. I was having a really hard night this night, specifically. I was kind of going through things on my own, sad about my breakup, and, I'm having a bad night already. My energy and, my vibration is low. Vibration. Sorry. Guys, you gotta remember I have a stutter. Okay. So, this specific night, I had cried myself to sleep. I had done most nights the past month. But, I had drank some wine, so I was, a little tipsy. So, when sometimes you have wine, you sleep extra good almost. Because, at least for me, wine will knock me out, right? So, I wake up, and not like fully wake up. I was like coming out of sleep, and I thought I was dreaming at first, and then I hear mommy, and it sounds like my daughter's voice. And so instantly I'm like listening, and I hear, mommy, come here. And I realized, guys, as I'm sitting up, immediately the panic sets in. I didn't have she's with her dad. My daughter was not home. It's like 3 a.m. And I hear her voice coming from her room across the side of the apartment. Mommy. So once that instantly clicks for me, like whether I'm kind of deep sleep or not, obviously know my child is home or not, you know? And I'm like, there's just no way. Like my baby dad would not come try and get into my house in the middle of the night and bring my daughter over there. Like I knew this was like, I was either hallucinating or having a dream. Like I knew she wasn't in the house, but guys, it sounded just identical to her little voice. Like it was insane. So I sit up straight, and I sleep in the dark. I can't sleep with lights on. It's got to be pitch black. So I'm looking out of the door, like my bedroom door, and you kind of see like the living room and kitchen, and then around the living room and the kitchen is like where her room is. It's like all the way in the back. And then I'm like staring out in the dark, and I'm like, God, I don't know why, but that just scared me so much worse. And I don't normally get scared. I think it's because my daughter, like obviously it sounded just like her, and it messed with my head. Because, you know, as if you're a parent, like, you hear your child's voice and you're, like, instantly go into panic mode. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just having a bad dream. Like, everything is fine, right? Oh, I got, like, chills. So, anyways, I'm, like, starting to slowly, like, lay back down. And I see, like, out of the corner of my eye, it looked like something small was, like, running, like, across the living room. But it was, like... it was small, and then I'm putting two and two together. Remember I told you guys another story time how the thing that's been coming in my house, the entity, like, crawls on the floor? It looks, like, small in that way, like, height-wise. And I was just like, God, no. Like, I was already having a night from hell. And obviously, if you have had paranormal experiences, you know that things feed off your energy. If you are sad, if you are, like, depressed, whatever it is, you're gonna get fed on and attacked so much harder. And I was not in a good headspace. Like the past month I was there, I was very sad, very distraught, very depressed, like the whole nine. And I closed my eyes really tight, and then I feel my bed like move. Okay, so I close my eyes tight, and I feel the bed move, like the bed frame though. I almost felt like when my dog would like lay against my bed, or when she'd walk past and bump into it. It was like a subtle bump, like something bumped into the bottom of the bed, and I'm like. I just start breathing heavily, and I pull the covers over my head, and I'm like, no. I start praying immediately. Like, I don't know why I was so freaked out. I normally don't get freaked out. I was freaking out. And then, from, like, outside of the blanket, I feel like, it feels like something is coming. This happens to me too much. This is happening with this entity too much. It, like, crawls on the bed. Like, it tries to come at me. I feel like the bed is moving. I feel like something is, like, crawling onto it from the floor. Like, it almost felt like an imprint, like a body getting in it, but half of a body, and I'm crying my eyes out, and the deepest voice suddenly goes, Mommy. Guys, I almost shit myself. Like, it came from right outside of the blanket. Like, I was covering myself with a blanket, and I just hear, Mommy, but it's deep, and it is, like, demonic sounding, and I know immediately, obviously, this is this thing is trying to fuck with me. And I always think in these times where I've been called, or it's trying to call me into like that, I'm like, why does it want me to go out of my room and go to where it is? Like, just, it freaks me out. And then it's like, it comes like to find me. I started screaming. And like, that's not something I ever do. Okay. When I get scared, I don't like scream. And I started screaming. And I was just like, I couldn't come out of the blanket. It scared me so bad. I'm praying on overtime mode. And I had my phone like under the blanket with me. And I picked up my phone. And I was about to call my best friend because I just didn't know what to do. I was not well. But I was like, no, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to wake anybody up. But I didn't sleep. I got up for the day. So after that happened, I like pep talked myself. I turned on every light in the house. I made coffee, and I didn't go back to bed. That was the most harrowing. I just hate it because it's like it's trying to it's my daughter's my world, and I feel like it was feeding off of that. Like, it just, I don't like that, using like my daughter to try to get into my head, like mimicking her voice. It was very dark, very dark. And I can tell you guys right now, there is nothing in this apartment. I always tell people to cleanse your space in your home before you move into it, but also, every religion is different in culture, so make sure you're looking into that before you're doing it. I know what works for me and what I can do. I made a mistake on not fully cleansing and blessing the home that I lived in before. This baby is like Fort Knox in here. And the energy is so great. But that's it for now. At least we are moving on to better things and less scary things. Bye.
Okay, I don't know if you believe in paranormal stuff. I don't even know how much I believe in it, but some weirdness has been happening around here, and I can't make heads or tails of it. One thing on its own, I'm sure I would just be able to brush off and be like, there's some explanation for it. But all these things together, and it's spooky season. Like, your brain is on that stuff. So anyway, here's what's been going on. We've had lots of stuff happen. Like, my daughter, since she moved back home in the summer, has like had her lights turn off, has heard voices. Her friend who was over heard voices, and just some weird stuff. Anyway, so a couple weeks ago, something weird happened where my kids were working together out in the yard, and I was running errands. But they were working on my project, helping me with something. And so they kind of called on and off throughout the day. And I got a call. It was from my daughter's phone. But when I answered it, it sounded like my son. And he just went, "Hi." And I was like, "Hey, what's up? What do you need?" "Hi." And I'm just like, and I thought, well, he can't hear me. So we kind of went through that for a second. And I'm just like, hello. He finally goes, "Hi." And I was like, okay, you're being weird. And I called him out. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, do you guys need something? Why are you calling on your sister's phone? And then it started over again. And I heard, "Hi, hello. Like, he couldn't hear me. And then same thing, "Hi." Like this weird laugh. And I'm like, what is he doing? It was so weird. It happened like 4 times, just the same repeated thing. And finally I hung up on him. I'm like, okay, I don't know why he's being so weird. And I tried to call back, and he answered right away on his phone. And I was just like, hey, what is going on? What was that about? He's like, what are you talking about? He had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, okay, he's definitely messing with me. So then I call my daughter's phone again, and she answers right away, and she's like out of breath. And she's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, why was your brother calling me on your phone? And she's like, what? He wasn't. My phone's been in my pocket this whole time. And I'm like, what? And she's like, what? So with my son, I could see him like playing it off, like making a practical joke out of it and then acting like he had no idea what was going on. My daughter, like, would get totally freaked out by that stuff. And she's just like, Mom, we're not doing anything. Like, she was adamant they weren't doing anything. So I have no idea what that phone call was about. And then I'm like, okay, lines got crossed, like airwaves. I don't know how cell phones work. So something happened. And then just the other day, my daughter was having a really bad day. So she took a shower, and all she wanted was a nice long shower and to listen to some music. And the echo is the speaker in the bathroom. So she's listening to music, and the volume keeps going up and down and up and down. And she's like, what is going on? And so she just talked to it like it was a spirit that was messing with her. And she's like, can you knock it off? I'm having a bad day. And the volume like dropped really low. And then she's like, now I can't even hear it. And then it got really loud. And then she was like, okay, can you just lower it a little bit, please? And it like got to a normal volume, and then it stopped changing, and it just stayed the same the rest of the shower. So she's like, I think there's a ghost, but I think it's a nice ghost, or it's just bored because it was just messing with me. So anyway, weird stuff happening. If you've got explanations for these things, I would love to hear them because it's getting weirder. Okay, so little update / background on the ghost story. So my last video was talking about some weird activity with me and my daughter and some stuff happening in our house. And a lot of people have been like, oh, we think your daughter brought something home. Maybe, but there's been a lot more stuff that's happened here in this house long before all this stuff happened with her. So it's kind of a weird backstory. So my in-laws built this house, and then they lived here for a while. My sister-in-law and her family lived here for a while. My in-laws moved back in, and then we bought the place. So a lot of family and extended family have either lived here or stayed here. And most of them have something that happened. So with my mother-in-law, it was mostly just weird stuff, cupboards and little noises and things. My sister-in-law has more stuff. She had probably her most intense one was she was in the master bathroom and she was getting ready to come out and the doorknob was like stuck, like it wouldn't even turn. It was like somebody was holding the other side, and she had 5 kids, so she was absolutely convinced one of her kids was messing with her, and she was getting like more mad that they weren't, like the longer it went on, the more upset she got and the more she was like yelling at whoever was holding the other side of the door. They were in so much trouble. And then all of a sudden the door released and she opened it instantly and there was nobody there. And it's not like they could have ran really fast either, because you have to go all the way like around the bed and through the bedroom and the bedroom door was closed. So she was like, what was that? Most of her kids, if not all, have had stuff happen either to them in this house or in their lives in other places. And the main thing has been like, and a couple of my nieces follow me on here, so they can attest to this. In the bathroom, like the guest bathroom, the kids' bathroom, more than one person has seen like feet coming through the ceiling, like hanging through the ceiling. And like whether it's like somebody like as if they're sitting on the roof with their feet dangling down or whatever, but like there's no windows or anything. It's like through the ceiling. As far as I understand it, I've never seen that. I've just heard more than one person in the family say that they've seen that. And then lots of stuff has gone down. I have other videos where I talk about like a bowl of fat just mysteriously in the oven making no sense, and dog food that filled up a drawer that made no, like just weird stuff has happened to our family, especially in this house. So it's not new, it's just recent stuff has been coming up. So yeah, again, whether you're into paranormal or not, whether you believe in that stuff or not, it's weird.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
In high school, when I was younger, something pretending to be my mom came into my room late at night, and it wasn't her. So my family actually lived in a haunted house. It was crazy because we built the house, and there was nothing on the land before. But literally on the very first day that we moved in, my mom and dad and I brought boxes to the house and left my sister there while we went back to our old house to pick up more boxes. And by the time we came back with the new boxes, my sister was trying to take the screen off of our window and climb out of the house because she said she heard men in the kitchen talking, so she had locked her bedroom door. And yeah, she was the only one in the house at the time. So let's fast forward a little bit. It's October of 2013. Stuff had been happening in the house. My sister and I kept telling my parents that there's things that are going on, but they weren't really believing us. It was kind of like a horror movie. So it's October 2013. I'm sitting in my bedroom. Here's my room. My sister's room is right here. A long hallway right here, then an open floor plan with a kitchen, living room, and then my parents' bedroom on the other side of the kitchen. So I heard somebody moving around dishes and stuff in the actual kitchen area. So I thought it was my mom. I said, "Hey, Mom, are you out there?" And I heard my mom say, "Yeah," like exactly like that. And I'm like, "Could you bring me a glass of water?" Because I was already in bed. I don't know why I asked that, but I heard my mom respond back and say, "Yeah, I'm coming," like something like that. So I'm thinking I'm getting some water. My mom's going to come, bring it to me. And I heard that it's so crazy. I hear her walking down the hallway all the way up to my bedroom door. And right when the footsteps get to my bedroom door, silence. Keep in mind it's pitch black. I'm just in my bed. And I hear my mom, or what I think is my mom, get down on the floor on all fours. I had carpet in my bedroom. And it was like she scurried around my bed, like going around my bed. And I literally was like, "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" And I like got up and I took my phone out and turned my flashlight on. The moment I turned the flashlight on, noises stopped completely. And I'm like, oh my God, I get chills. There's nobody in here. There was literally nobody in the room. And shortly after that, my sister came out of her bedroom and was like asking what the hell happened. Like, she had heard my mom's voice as well, and she heard me like screaming. And that's when we both went and got my parents. And yeah, the story of that is actually insane. We ended up having psychics come to try and cleanse the house. It didn't work. There was a time when my dad thought someone broke into the house, so he got a weapon and was walking around the house trying to make sure no one was in there. No one was in there. Tons of different stuff. We also discovered there might be pioneer settlers buried under the grounds of the house. I went down to the courthouse in South Dakota to look all of it up. And yeah, I could go on for days and days with ghost stories, but that was definitely the creepiest. Hearing my mom's voice and it walking up to my door and then crawling around on all fours. That's some shit that I don't know if people really believe still. I don't know if you're believing this, but that 100% happened to me, and that was one of the reasons why I got into the career of wanting to paranormal investigate. Because once you have an experience like that, you're kind of in the world, and you can't get out of it. At least I couldn't.
A few of the last stories talked about how they were in this house that was having this paranormal haunting activity, but they mentioned that their family had built that house. It wasn't like a pre-existing house that you move into. So inside the house itself, there isn't like that history of people who have lived there in the past or whatever traumas or whatever experiences they've had in there. So that doesn't carry that same energy that you would expect with most haunted houses that seem to have a lot of history to them. And I found that quite interesting. Often it is about the history of the house itself, but because they had built it and obviously they knew all the people who had lived in that house, if anything traumatic or devastating had happened in that house, obviously they would know about it and it would probably have been mentioned. But I do think it's interesting to think that the land itself, rather than the house, is the part of the property that may carry that energy or that darkness around it. And I wonder if, I think one of them did mention the history of the land, but I do wonder if a lot of people that have perhaps had experiences like this in a house where they're, it's a new house, it's a new build, or it's been within the family, if they have looked into the history of the land rather than the house itself, to see if they have any answers for what could be occurring there. But I thought that was just interesting to note the fact that those houses were basically brand new.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
So I seen this Stitch on Lori Lane's video. I was watching it, literally just watching it right now. Love her. And I was like, maybe I should hop on this. I haven't talked about it since it happened, but it's also the experience that made me more interested in paranormal activity and stuff of that nature. Reason why I watch people like Lori Lane and videos on the side of Scary TikTok, all that. Okay, Nuke's Top 5, all that stuff. So my story takes place in my old neighborhood, cul-de-sac. I was 13 at the time. I went to my friend's house. We all moved together. Like, my mom moved to this cul-de-sac, and my friend moved to the same cul-de-sac. Like, it was so weird. Coincidence, I guess. But she moved across the street from me. Went to go to her house for a play date. I was 13. She was 12. And her dad was at work, and her mom literally left at a meeting, like when we were there she was there the whole day, but anyway, she left for a meeting, ordered us pizza, just us downstairs in a loft. Mind you, they just moved in, so the house is not fully furnished. The loft itself didn't have anything but a small little TV and a DVD player, and we're watching like Nickelodeon movies and stuff like that on the TV. And save to the TV, we're in the loft, there's a stairway that goes upstairs. Like, you can, upstairs behind us. And it was just me, her, and her little brother at the time. I think he was like 6 or 5, but he's upstairs asleep. So we're watching TV. It got dark, and my friend was like, we should put on one of my parents' bad movies. And we called them bad movies. They were scary movies. We call them bad movies because we're not allowed to watch rated R stuff by ourselves at all. So she gets up to open the DVD player, and I believe my DVD player, when we opened it, the screen would turn blue, but hers turned black. And when she pressed to open the DVD player, the screen went black. And I seen a person standing at the stairs behind us. And my mind was like, oh, your brother's up. So I'm like, oh, I said, isn't your brother supposed to be asleep? And she said, yes. So should we turn around? There's nobody on the stairs. I turned back to the TV. There's nobody there. So I'm like, okay, maybe it was just her reflection or something. I don't know. So she put the movie in, and I think it was When a Stranger Calls. I believe it was that movie because I remember that movie specifically because it became my favorite movie I ever watched. We're watching the movie halfway through. The TV stops, like it, like as if the DVD was scratched or something. So she takes it out to clean it. The TV goes black again, and I see somebody coming. It was more, he was in the middle of the stairs, but the person came down this side, and I'm like, what is that? And she sees it this time. So she turns around before I did and turned around thinking it's her brother. She's like, you're supposed to be asleep, and there's nobody there. We turn back to the TV, nobody there. So we both look at each other like, what just happened? So we think that it is her brother just playing a prank on us, because there's no way we both just saw somebody on the stairs and they're just gone. Okay, and her brother was known for pulling pranks a lot, so we're like, it has to be him. So we go to the stairs, turn the light on for the stairs, grabbing each other hand by hand, going upstairs. Her little brother's door is creaked open, so we peek in, and he's asleep, knocked out, snoring and everything. So we're like, okay. So as we're going downstairs, I'm starting to realize that when we're walking up and down the stairs, we can hear the creaks of the stairs. Like every time we stepped on certain steps. So I'm like, I didn't hear any of that when, we thought he was coming downstairs. So I'm like, okay, like that's kind of weird, but we just brushed it off. Tried to play the movie. It wasn't playing. So we're sitting here trying to figure out what to do. And the stair light turns off. Mind you, we didn't turn it off. We didn't turn it off. It was still on. Just in case we can see him coming downstairs. So the light turns off and we look like, okay, now we know he's playing pranks on us. And we rush to the stairs to turn the light on, and we ran upstairs. He's literally still knocked out to sleep. So we're like, okay. So we walk in the room and we're standing there like, there's no way he's awake and we can't hear him coming up and downstairs or opening the door. The door creaks on top of that, so there's no way we can't hear him coming out of his room. We're upstairs and we can hear the DVD player open. Like, it makes a Pacific sound like when it opens. So we look at each other like, yeah, I heard that. Like, we heard that. So we look downstairs. We creep downstairs and look. There's nothing there, but the DVD player is open. We go downstairs and put the DVD player, return the DVD player off, and we're just standing like frozen, scared. I look back at the TV. I kid you not, I was stuck in fear. There was somebody standing again on the steps, and she seen it, and we just couldn't take our eyes off of the TV. We were just standing there, staring at the TV, because we can now see there's this tall figure. It could not have been him because he's short. This tall figure that looks like a man standing on the stairs. So we're sitting there frozen. None of us are making it. I don't even think we were breathing at the time. We were just sitting there frozen. The lights come on. The figure's gone. We run upstairs and like lock ourselves in her little brother's room. We're crying. We're trying to call her mom. Like, it was terrifying. I promise you I didn't go back over her house for a while. And her mom assumed that it was an intruder in the house because we were frantic. We were crying. We could not get anything out. Like, there's a man in the house. Something's in the house. We were just terrified. Like, screaming, crying. Woke up the brother. She called the police. Rushed over here with the police. The police are asking us questions. We're telling them everything. And they're like, it sounds like they're saying it's a ghost. And she said, it could not be a ghost. It's an intruder. The kids have imagination. They're watching a movie they're not supposed to be watching. But we knew. We seen what we seen. There was no intruder. There was no man in the house. We even told her that, the stairs creak and we couldn't hear anything. The door wasn't, nothing was going on. We seen what we seen. But to this day, she just believed that we were just too scared because we're watching a movie we weren't supposed to be watching and made it all up. That experience is the reason why I'm into paranormal now. And I don't want to experience another experience.
Have you ever come home and realize that something is not where you left it? You start to question, has somebody been in my house? Or did I just not remember where I put this? Then you remember you have a security camera in your living room? That exact thought led me to catch one of the scariest clips that I have ever experienced in this house. Let's get into the story. So this story takes us to November of 2024. I'm out with some friends for some drinks. I believe we had also gone to the movies. So I'm getting home pretty late. It's about 11 o'clock. I get home, there's nobody in the house because my friend is out at a concert in LA. So I'm already getting into the house just a little on edge because I'm aware that when I'm alone, the ghosts that are in this house, they really like to mess with me. But I try to pay it no mind. So I get in the shower, I'm relaxing in my room afterwards. The whole house is pitch dark. I'm scrolling on TikTok, and I'm just trying to preoccupy my time until I fall asleep. So as I'm scrolling, suddenly, from out in the living room, I hear just the faintest little tap. And so it's just enough for it to catch my attention. So I pause my videos, and I'm just listening, waiting to see if there's going to be another noise. But there isn't. So I start scrolling TikTok again. Suddenly, a few minutes later, I hear the same noise, but this time it's a little bit louder. So at this point, I'm not choosing to investigate. I'm just going to go ahead and ignore it, but I'm going to go on Instagram just so that way there's no videos playing and I could kind of hear the noise a little bit better if it happens again. Only a few minutes passed until it happened again. And this time, I go out to the living room and I actually check. So that brings us to our first clip. This is me coming out into the living room, trying to figure out what the noise was. And suddenly, I see a pillow on the ground. And I'm like, that's odd. That pillow wasn't there when I got home. Maybe Bruno, my roommate's dog, maybe he knocked it on the ground. I'm just confused. So I pick it up, I throw it on the couch, I'm looking around the house. And then I remember we have the security camera. So I'm just going to look at the security camera and see if the pillow was on the couch when I got home or if it was already on the floor. I go back to my room and I notice that there's a camera notification right before the camera notification of me walking out into the living room. So I watch that clip and this is what I see. The pillow, completely by itself, flew off of the couch while I was laying in my room. Granted, I had experienced so many things in this house, but this was another level because this was physical proof that there was something taking place in this house. So I watched this clip over and over again, trying to find some sort of explanation for how this could have happened without anyone else being in the room, or in the house for that matter. I then, of course, send the clip to my best friend, and I'm waiting for a response because, again, he's at a concert. So if I try and call him, he's not going to be able to hear me. So I'm just waiting for a response. In the meantime, I call my sister, and I'm trying to calm myself down because, again, I'm in this house alone. Eventually, I decide I'm just going to go to bed and just not deal with it. So I lock me and Bruno in my room and just go to sleep because I can't deal with it in the moment, especially being alone. My friend gets home about 1:30 in the morning. I'm knocked out, so we talk about it in the morning and debrief a little bit. We both have no explanation for how this happened. We've let that clip circulate around our friend group to be examined and examined and examined again, hoping that somebody could find an explanation for it, but so far, nobody has. So I'm going to play the clip one more time before the video ends. Let me know in the comments if you have an explanation for how this could have happened. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
The scariest nursing home I ever worked at, story time. So in my early 20s, I got a job as a cleaner in this really old nursing home / rehabilitation center that we'll call Premier Living. Now this place was 3 stories high and it was winged off in 8 different sections. It'd have your older folks over here, very sick people over here, rehabilitation over there, addiction over here, and then downstairs there were 2 floors. You had the morgue and then the basement below the morgue. And when I tell you that was the creepiest damn place I ever been, it was terrifying. So up on the 3rd floor, we had this room that was called the sunroom, and it was where all the windows were open. cabin, kind of like a play area for the elderly people, and they'd go in there throughout the day, play cards, Yahtzee, bingo, just different board games. They'd watch TV. Sometimes they'd smoke and talk. But the real reason it was called the sunroom was because every evening when the sun went down and it started to get dark, all the patients with sundown syndrome would start acting up in that room. I mean, they would go from talking just like I am right now to sitting there like this. And you would gradually see their face change, and they would turn into a whole different person. If you didn't know what sundown syndrome was and it was your first time dealing with it, you would think they were possessed. There was one elderly woman who would just be talking just like this, playing cards or whatever, and then all of a sudden when the sun went down, she'd go... She would breathe so loud when she did it, she sounded like a dog panting. It freaked me out. Another resident had this baby doll, and she carried it everywhere. She treated it like it was her own baby. She took great care of it. But when that sun went down, she'd turn on that baby. She'd switch up so fast. One minute she'd be, I love the baby so much, to banging its head on the table. One of the coolest things about working in a nursing home is that you're dealing with all these older people who have lived a lifetime. They all have a past, and every past is different. So they would tell you the coolest stories. They'd tell you stories that were real about their life, and then they would tell you like their legends and folklore from where they were from. For example, Miss Ming, she would tell us these stories about folklore and legends in Japan. One of those stories was that in Japan, there is a ghostly woman, or this beastly type woman, who stands so many feet tall, has long black hair, sharp nails, and she's so tall that she can see up into like second, third story windows. Miss Ming was always telling us about this thing, and as Miss Ming's brain continued to deteriorate, at night she began screaming, saying that this thing was standing at the window watching her. A lot of nights they would have to sedate Miss Ming because she swore this thing was standing or floating at her window. But what freaked me out was one night the nurses called me into her room to help them change her bedpan and her sheets and stuff, and Miss Ming was kind of heavy set, so they would roll her over and I would change the sheet. But as I was putting the sheet on the bed, I stretched my arm across, and when my peripheral vision, like when I glanced up at the window, I could have sworn I saw this pale white face, dark eyes, long hair, just like gleaming into the window. I jumped back and dropped everything, and the nurses are like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, put the sheet on the bed. And Miss Ming is like, you saw her, didn't you? You saw her, didn't you? And I'm like, I don't know what I saw. We also had this woman that we'll call Cheryl, who said her husband Albert was a hitman and that he had killed thousands of people throughout their marriage. I'll have to make a video about Cheryl all on its own because that story is so long but interesting. So long story short, while he's gone, she's going through some of their stuff, and she finds a bin out in the garage, and it's full of these notebooks, his journals. Allegedly, she found her husband's kill books where he spoke in detail about the victims, who they were, where they were from, why he killed them. I often wondered if he was a hitman or if he was just a serial killer. Don't know for sure. Now, one of the nurses did report this to the police, but the police said there was no way it could be true. She had to be out of her mind, but I often wondered, was she telling the truth and they just didn't want to investigate it? I don't know. Then there was Mr. Joe. Now, Mr. Joe was an old retiree. He'd been at the home for about 5 years when I started there, and he was probably like 90, 91, somewhere in there. Now, Mr. Joe was really cool, really sweet, always respectful, but sometimes late at night, he would get very scared, and he would swear that there was something standing in the room with him. He would say this thing is standing at the foot of the bed, on his pillow, laying next to him, on the ceiling, just, it's always with him, following him, and it won't leave him alone until he's dead. But later, his daughter told us that it was his own son that he had shot and killed. Apparently, the son had snuck out of the house. Mr. Joe woke up, thought it was an intruder breaking into the house, but it was a son who had came home late, and Mr. Joe grabbed his pew-pew and unalived him, and then when they cut the lights on and realized it was his son, he just went off the deep end. But the creepiest thing that happened that actually made me quit my job was what Mr. Rick did. So Mr. Rick was about 74 years old. His family admitted him into the nursing home, claiming that he was out of control and they couldn't handle him anymore and he was getting into trouble and he needed to be monitored and supervised, so they put him in the nursing home. Mr. Rick was 74 years old. He was still mobile. He could get up, walk around. Hell, he'd jog around the nursing home sometimes. He was in great shape. But his family admitted him into the nursing home, stating that he was out of control and they couldn't handle him anymore. So I go into work around 7 o'clock that evening. I was 30 minutes late, and it had been storming throughout the day. But that night we had some bad storms come through, and I mean, boom, just thunder shaking the ground, lightning, tornado warnings. It was rough. So around 10 p.m., lights are out, TVs are off. We're making our rounds. And I'm walking around, I'm thinking, something just kind of feels off, but I don't know what it is. Next thing I know, nurses are running down the hallway, the power goes out, and I'm like, what is going on, y'all? And she said, Mr. Rick is missing. Come on, we got to find Mr. Rick. Hurry up. So, of course, I throw my mop down to the side, we take off, we split up, and I'm paired up with another nurse. And we all start going around searching for Mr. Rick. Now, we knew the place was on lockdown, and there was no way for him to get in or out of this place, so we knew he was there somewhere, we just had to find him. So me and this nurse, we go downstairs towards the morgue in the basement, and we get down to the morgue, and the doctor comes in and says, hey, have y'all seen anybody in here? And we said, no, but we're looking for Mr. Rick. Why? He said, because one of our cadavers is missing. I said, what? Where would it go? What do you mean a cadaver is missing? One of the bodies was missing out of the morgue. The doctor said, I don't know, but it didn't just walk off. Somebody took it. Sorry, I had to take a break. But anyways, me and this nurse are standing in the hallway, side by side. And when we get towards the beginning of the next hallway, we see this figure standing down at the end of that hallway we were just at. She looks closer and says, that guy looks weird. Look at his face. His head's dropped down. I said, yeah, he does look weird. Something's wrong with him. It kind of looked like Mr. Rick was standing there holding his head down like this. But when she got closer, she said, that's not Mr. Rick. And when I got closer, I said, that man's naked. That dude is stark naked, and his skin don't look right. Well, why does he look purple like that? What? And then she realized, wait a minute, that ain't Mr. Rick. That's the cadaver. I said, well, if that's cadaver, how's he standing there? She said, I don't know. But then the cadaver, the body, picked his head up, and his eyes was open, and he was looking at us. Well, then his head drops again, and this dead body starts walking towards us, and it picks up pace to where it looks like it's running at us. So I said, oh, hell no, this, I'm out. When I tell you, I didn't give a shit. I took off running. Yes, I left her there. She was screaming, where are you going? I said, listen, fuck you and fuck y'all, I'm done, I'm out. So the next day, everybody was laughing at me because we all found out it was Mr. Rick. He stole the body from the morgue and was standing behind it, holding it up, making it move. That's why it looked like it was walking on its own. I don't care they were laughing at me. Fuck them, I was out. Just picture that, seeing someone hold a dead body at the end of a hallway, making it look like it was walking around and stuff. Yeah, I was done with that job. And I didn't go back there, but I did go to another nursing home, which was even worse. If you want to hear more about the nursing homes, let me know in the comments. I love to share.
Secondhand shopping, vintage, antique shopping is really popular. It's had a resurgence again in the last few years. But when you're in these shops, have you ever thought about the items themselves and maybe the energy that could be attached to them? Is there any sort of object that you often see in an antique or vintage store where you're sort of like, I don't really want to bring that into my house because it just doesn't feel right bringing it into your house? Like, for example, even though jewelry is beautiful, and especially vintage jewelry, I have this pause when I see or think about purchasing vintage or antique jewelry. I feel like it's something so like sentimental and personal to somebody, had some sort of connection to it, and it really gives me pause when I see it in antique shops. That, I don't know, I feel like if that were to happen, that to me is one of those items where I think it would be kind of most likely to occur, if that makes sense. So I don't think I've ever bought like jewelry or anything like that secondhand. I don't know, do you have something that you feel the same about? Maybe like paintings or jewelry as well, or something that makes you pause a little and think, maybe I don't want to bring that into my house. I guess dolls is also another very popular one. There are a lot of haunted dolls and things on like Etsy and Amazon and all those sorts of websites that people obviously go and look for. But when you're going to an antique store, it's not really labeled as haunted doll, it's just a doll. And if you take it home and some odd things start happening, then so be it. But maybe that's why you usually avoid those sort of items, or I don't know, let me know, what do you think about that whole idea? I did actually buy the old box brownie cameras. I found it at this antique store where the lady would go over to the UK, get a bunch of stuff. I think she'd spend like a few months over there each year, bring it back to New Zealand where I'm from, and she would open this store for a few months. So I think it was like a half and half in the UK and in New Zealand. And she would bring these items back from the UK. And I loved walking around that store just to see what kind of stuff she had brought back. And I really love old vintage cameras. So I saw this box brownie camera from, I think, 1910s, 1920s. I could be wrong. It could be the 1930s. I don't remember. Maybe it was 1930. And yeah, she had this box brownie camera, and it was in the box, and she didn't know if it worked, but I was like, doesn't really matter to me. It's like, you know, my grandparents would have used this sort of camera, and that was really cool to me. So I bought this camera and I took it home to try and see if it worked, or, you know, just have a look at it. And I opened the box, pulled out the camera, which I did in the store as well. But when I saw it at home, where the box had like been folded at the bottom, like how a box normally is, there was kind of like these little cardboard flap things that like to keep the base together. And if you lifted up one of the like cardboard flaps, there was a little square picture in there, like a photo that had been taken, I guess, with the box brownie. And it was of this mound of dirt, and in the background was like a cemetery, and you could see like headstones in the background. I don't remember if there was one by that mound of dirt specifically, but it was eerie, and I didn't notice it in the store, and that like, yeah, kind of creeped me out, but I never really thought about it. I didn't think that like it was like a haunted thing or anything, and nothing ever happened. Yeah, it was just interesting to me because you don't expect to see that, and I guess that's can be how some items that you get secondhand can maybe hold a little something extra. So yeah, that's my non-haunted story, but I just thought that was interesting in itself. But let's get into the next video. So this next story is someone who has been to an antique shop and think they brought home something a little extra with their purchase.
My college dorm was haunted, and I'm the reason why. Here's the story. I took a trip with my dad to Florida right before I moved to college, and we drove through New Orleans, and I ended up buying street art. So there were these 3 planks of wood, and it had this couple dancing painted on the 3 planks of wood. And I did think that the person that I was buying it from was a little bit creepy, okay? But I loved the art, so I bought it, and I took it to my dorm room, and I hung it up. The interesting thing about the dorms that I stayed in is that, yes, it was a dorm hall, and we had like dorm mates, but roommates were not a thing. So in the dorm that I lived in, we had our own rooms. I put these up on the wall, but shortly after, I started hearing all of these stories from the girls in the hall that they were having like really scary paranormal experiences, that they felt like people were watching them, that they were feeling things in their room, and that things were moving around. But I wasn't experiencing anything, okay? I wasn't really experiencing anything in my room. However, these girls were so scared that they were starting to move out of their rooms and sleep in the common area. So there was a common area upstairs with couches. They were bringing sleeping bags and sleeping with their blankets just on the floor so that they didn't have to be alone in their rooms. Well, one night, it was really late at night, and I don't know why I was up cleaning my room this late at night, but the hall was super quiet. No one was really out and about. And I'm sitting there on the floor, sort of like this in my dorm room, and all of a sudden, I feel like someone's in the room with me. So I kind of look over my shoulder, and I'm getting like the creepy feeling, the creepy vibe. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put on some music, no big deal, and stick with my cleaning. So I had all this stuff out all over the floor. I was really like organizing and getting rid of stuff. I had this big brown bag that was behind me. It was what I had emptied onto the floor, and I was kind of going through whatever was in this big brown paper bag. So I'm sitting there, and I'm cleaning, and I'm listening to my music, okay? And I keep getting this feeling like, oh, like something's behind me, something's watching me, and it's starting to feel like it's creeping up on my body, like I can almost feel a physical presence. So I go to stand up because I'm like, I'm probably gonna leave. I'm feeling a little bit weird. And as soon as I start to stand up, whop, I hear this sound, and I turn around, and the brown bag that was behind me is completely crumpled, like someone had just completely crumpled it to the ground. Even though this happened, I continued to sleep in my dorm room. I just am kind of a loner like that, but it was very common at this point for everyone to be sleeping out in the common areas. But after that night, I started having dreams every single night that someone was after me. And I woke up in the middle of the night one time, and I looked above my bed, and I saw the 3 planks of wood that I had hung above my bed, and I knew, I had this knowing, it's this. Whatever I brought into this place when I got these is what is haunting all of these poor girls in my dorm. So immediately, I took them off of the wall, I ran downstairs, and we had this big dumpster, and I threw them in the dumpster. And I kid you not, ever since I threw them away, we never, ever had a bad experience ever again. I don't know that I even ever told anyone that I threw it away and that all of that activity stopped, because people were being tormented, okay? Like, people felt like they were being followed. They were also being touched in the night. They were having horrible nightmares. People were having their names called out to them. So I was like, I'm responsible for bringing this energy into this place. But once I got rid of it, gone. And that has made me wonder about buying things ever since. And if you've been watching, I just posted about how this house that I'm living in now has been having some activity ever since I went to the estate sale and brought home some stuff from the estate sale. I will say, however, what I brought home from New Orleans and what was in the dorm room felt very dark. What I have here in this house, nah, it's not really like that. So anyway, that's my story.
Those are all the videos we have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye!